Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hello, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Today, we're discussing Deep Space Nine, Season 7, Episode 24, The Dogs of War. The Dominion retreats and obliterates Damar's resistance, and the new Nagus is chosen. It's all coming to a head in one way or another, I guess.
Yeah, you can feel them wrapping up plot threads.
That's Ferenginar and the Nagus done, I suppose, then?
The one thread everyone was thrilled to see the conclusion of, because that means it's over.
For all that the Ferenginar stories have been middling at best, I would say, I felt this one was fine.
Oh yeah, this one's fine. I like it a lot, actually, that Rom ends up the Nagus. And you can tell they feel bad about how awful the Ferengi were written, and they're saying, look, they're on the trajectory to becoming not so awful.
They're
Except
becoming...
Quark.
Yeah, Quark is the traditionalist. He points out all the things he likes about Ferenginar to demonstrate how bad they are, because he's a kind of a bad guy. Kind of.
It was kind of weird to see Quark give such a passionate speech when it was about preserving the worst of Ferengi culture.
He doesn't see it as the worst. He sees it as the best things about capitalism.
Well, he doesn't, but we see it as bad, and so it's strange. It works. It's just kind of weird. Usually, when a character on the show is speaking as if what they're saying is really meaningful, we identify with it.
Usually it's the Federation guys, and they're preaching about how we should treat all life with value or something that is fairly easy to agree with.
Right.
Quark is really quite backwards as a person. He's a good character, though. I'm not gonna say that because he has some serious negative traits that he is a bad character. Well, he's a bad character in that he has bad opinions, but he adds a lot to the show.
Definitely. He's a great addition to the show. Addition? He's a great part of the show.
They made Ferengis do goofy things without making it feel awkward.
I didn't think they could do that.
Grand Nagus accidentally thought he was talking to the wrong brother.
I kept preparing myself for awful sexist remarks because the episode starts off with female characters wanting something from Quark.
Well, he even says, what does he say? You can't sexually exploit your employees or something. He highlights that as something good about Ferenginar. So, which, therefore, you're supposed to understand that that's a bad thing.
As long as I don't hear details and talk of lobes, I'm good.
Treating it as a social issue rather than just getting thick with the details is a lot better.
I don't think I mentioned this, but I really like this episode. So there's that.
That's a surprise.
Yeah, I'm sure that's shocking. But I have one serious bone to pick.
Is it that Brunt and Wayun appeared in back-to-back scenes?
No, I actually love that.
Cuts from Brunt to Wayun.
That made me laugh. I thought that has to be intentional.
It may have been. It's not that jarring. He seems really different when he's Brunt and when he's Wayun.
Right, there's not a lot of overlap in how he plays those characters. I could totally see someone being completely unaware. But then for those of us who do know, it's funny.
He got a dual credit in the opening where it said Jeffrey Combs as Brunt and Wei-Yun.
If only they interacted and had a horrible scene where you could tell that it was filmed independently and they try to pretend they're interacting.
Yes, if only. What was your big problem, if not that?
The Jem'Hadar recognized Damar on site in a dark alley when they couldn't before.
You're talking about the ones at the space station that didn't recognize him.
Yeah, when I complained before.
Every Jem'Hadar is different. Just because they're engineered life forms doesn't mean that some of them are lazy and live on a space station light years away from the action.
These guys had special faces too, so maybe those were Damar seeking face enhancements.
Which, of course, they would deploy after they suspect he's died.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing. They're not even looking for him at this point, yet they still notice him right away.
He did come out of the alleyway like Superman or something, though. Maybe it was a kind of, is it a bird, is it a plane sort of dialogue. They said, it's Damar. And then a minute later, they said, oh, it is actually Damar.
Oh, so the circumstance led them to believe it's Damar, and then they confirmed it.
Well, I'm not trying to read too much into it. I just think they recognized him.
Yeah, it's a throwaway scene, and I'm an idiot for harping on this, but there you go.
If that's the biggest gripe, then this episode is fine. That's not even a gripe about this episode. That's a gripe about the ones on the space station from 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, that is. It's a enhanced gripe from the other episode, because I was arguing they should recognize him, and then here they do.
I am loving Damar.
He's the best.
He's lying on the bed, joking about his mountain hideout. He's still got all the kind of dark sort of wit to him. He's just kind of... He's a bit
sober
now. Yeah, well, he's sober from the drink, but also for that time when he was dead, but not actually really dead, there was a kind of serenity to him. I don't think we've seen him just relaxing, ever.
No, never.
There's a humorous saying about how you can sleep when you're dead. Well, this kind of was it for Damar.
He was effectively dead.
Yeah, well, stuck in the basement.
And dusting.
Oh, I have a gripe.
Gripe away.
Garrick's housekeeper, Mila, who we've seen before, by the way. He spoke to her in season 3, 4, ages ago.
The same character?
Yeah, he speaks to her in the comms in Odo's office. I think it's in Improbable Cause.
Okay, that escaped my memory.
No, well, that's why I brought it up. It doesn't really bear any relevance because she basically gets reintroduced here. She goes down into this basement and she's looking for the light switch. But
computer on.
Well, that, yeah. But why isn't the light switch at the top of the stairs? Why is it down at the bottom of the stairs? That's really dangerous.
It was designed by a Ferengi.
Cut-rate basements. It's a death trap. If you're carrying heavy things down there, you could slip down the stairs in the dark.
Cardassians live dangerously.
Well, Damar certainly does, and Garrick. I must say that Damar, Garrick, and Kira is possibly the most competent group of characters in the show.
It's my favorite team. They can do anything.
I think adding O'Brien in there might really make them unstoppable.
Ah, that's cheating.
Yeah, at that point, the Dominion would just have to surrender.
Even Cisco knows that's cheating. He would never allow that.
He wants to win the war fairly.
Well, either fairly or at his hand.
Yeah, he wants to win it, not just basically getting all the competent guys together.
He'll cheat, but it's no good if he's not the one cheating.
Yeah, fair enough. They have a plan to escalate Damar's public image.
Turn him into a legend.
Yeah. Being unkillable is stuff of legends, usually.
That's a pretty good story. Yeah, they should run with it.
His terrorist cells were all wiped out. I
Or
thought back.
so they say.
They probably were.
Yeah. I can't imagine they cared to fake that.
It's not a great thing to lie about. You'll just get blown up by terrorists if you try and convince everyone that they're already dead.
Yeah, those terrorists would say, hey, hold on, we're not actually dead. And then rally, and then that's a big problem.
I thought back to Gull Resort accidentally sharing names and how annoyed Kira and Garrick were for him slipping up.
Right.
And suddenly all of the terrorists are wiped out. Just imagine that level of sloppiness was sort of throughout the organization.
Oh, so that slip up was indicative of
Yeah.
deeper problems.
Well, if it was a proper cellular structure, like Kira suggested, it would be nearly impossible to wipe them all out simultaneously, unless you'd infiltrated the entire network. And even then, you would never know if you'd infiltrated the entire network, so launching a simultaneous strike would be a bad idea, because you don't know if you're in half of it, or all of it, or a quarter.
They don't even address how they were able to do that. Just, hey, everybody, these cells are all wiped out. That sucks for you guys.
Well, like I said, I think that they were just really sloppy.
It's not hard to imagine that's the case.
Well, we've seen Damar's number one guide being rubbish at being a terrorist.
He couldn't even get beat up by Kira properly. That should stop you from continuing with your incompetence.
We know what happened to Gull Resort, so I don't think much more needs to be said. Bashir and Esri took it to the next level.
And then they got dropped down a level
because
because...
Worf pushed them down a level, yeah.
It
was pretty funny, actually.
Yeah.
Just presses the button.
Yep, had enough of this. Down they go.
They're pretty good at building up sexual tension, because I didn't think Bashir and Esri had much chemistry prior to this episode.
I don't think they had any prior to this.
And during this episode?
It was fine.
Well, that's pretty good. If it went from them just being two random people to it sort of being okay when they kissed. That's
the kissing was convincing. Especially when you think about Bareil and Kira and how awkward that was.
Yeah, but who wouldn't want to kiss Bashir?
Bashir?
No, he definitely would. Kira married Bashir, and by that I mean none of us are married. Alexander Elsadig.
Well, maybe they'll kiss in the final episode.
No, what?
No, they won't.
That doesn't make sense. I don't think Kira's much of a kisser. She's more of a punching people in the head sort of person.
We all express love in different ways. That is her love language. Beating the crap out of someone. I liked her Obi-Wan Kenobi outfit during this episode.
Cloaked figures, yes. They just walk around unchecked during a time of war. I'm surprised they didn't have Breen suits or just, motorcycle helmets or something. The founders have retreated into Cardassian space. I don't know. She waved vaguely at a map, saying, "We'll make a line here," even though it's space, so it should really be more of a kind of surface. But let's just say a line. So why were they retreating?
So they have less area to defend.
That's right. I remember now.
So they're not as spread out and thinned. Which was a good excuse to set up a giant battle, because as Martok was saying, they have to attack now before they build back up.
Yeah, they can just build forces like nobody's business. I mean, I guess they hatch their troops who are ready to go in a couple of days. I wonder if they have a species that is good at engineering and building that hatches like the Jem'Hadar. Basically, you don't want to leave the Dominion sitting in a stronghold because they'll just build up lots and lots of guys.
It's like someone piling troops into Australia in Risk.
Does that work?
It depends what rules you play by. But there's only one way to get in there. There's only one entry.
Oh, so if you have millions of guys there, they can't beat you?
I've never seen it effectively work, but sure.
Okay.
That means the Dominion's gonna lose. They didn't play Risk enough.
I find their retreat a little unexpected.
It makes them seem weak, and they usually try to avoid that appearance.
They were 1v1ing the Federation side, and then they teamed up with the Breen, and they started just trampling the Federation. Now, the Breen's weapons are less effective, not completely ineffective. Their energy thing doesn't work, but presumably the Breen ships are more than a one-trick pony. Like,
Maybe
they
are one-trick
guns.
ponies.
Oh, well, then it was a pretty bad idea teaming up with them.
They wanted that pony.
Okay, well, they could mount guns on the Breen ships and make them at least semi-useful. That's still a stronger position than when they started, yet they want to retreat and regroup, which isn't totally wrong. I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. It just feels like a sudden retreat.
I think they hoped we wouldn't notice that it doesn't make sense because the founders are dying. So then you just see that visual and understand, okay, they're retreating now. They're hurting. But it doesn't translate to the troops and the Breen and everything else.
I wouldn't say that it doesn't make sense. I think it makes some sense. I just don't quite get the motivation for it. They're surely stronger than they used to be, and the Federation is surely weaker than it used to be. Yet they weren't retreating before.
Is it possible they were spreading themselves too thin and not letting on, and then finally realized, oh, wait, this isn't going to work?
It's likely. I mean, the Federation took the Chintoka system and a bunch of other stuff, so perhaps they were losing before the Breen showed up, and then that tipped the tide, and now they're worried that it's tipping back.
There, you solved it.
Well, like I said, I didn't say it didn't make sense. I just think it could have been better justified.
I agree.
She did justify it. Just she justified it within the context of what happened there rather than the past context. You could probably just say that maybe she's not the best strategist.
Okay. She's not the best strategist.
Oh, well, that explains it.
They all worship her and she calls the shots, but there's no real reason why she should.
The founders are very clever, but without someone to naysay them, they're always... That's kind of a weakness.
That's how Star Wars Episode 1 happened. Lucas was surrounded by yes men. The founders are Lucas, and this is their episode 1.
On the other side of the coin, we have Cisco, Martok, Admiral Ross, and a Romulan guy who was named in the script, but I can't remember his name. Turns out they're all up for a fight.
They know the last episode's coming up, and they have to end with a bang, so they're doing us a favor.
It's not too surprising. Martok is up for a fight because he will fight any battle anywhere. Cisco's up for a fight because he's Cisco. Ross is just saying whatever Cisco's opinion with some kind of authority from Starfleet, as if they really decided that. So the Romulan had to go along with it. Plus,
Well, you don't want to be the odd man out.
Yeah.
I have to say that Cisco looked way more excited for the return of a battleship, which ended up turning into the Defiant, than the news of his child.
Let's talk about the Defiant Mark II first.
All right. He could not contain his excitement. He was very happy.
It was like he got a toy from the toy store.
That was at the top of his wish list, taped to the refrigerator.
Yes, it's Christmas morning. They got me a new Defiant class ship. I don't like why they had to rename it to the Defiant.
That was silly.
Just Sao Paulo is fine. Renaming it to the Defiant kind of tramples over the fact that the Defiant just got blown to smithereens and everyone was quite sad about it. They kind of reset that by renaming it. If they just said it's the Sao Paulo and it's the same type of ship, then that's fine. But no, special dispensation to rename it so nothing ever changes.
I don't see who that serves. That's kind of weird.
It adds to the confusion.
Okay.
So when they talk about the Defiant, everyone has to say what, the old one or the new one.
They had to have parentheses and then the star date.
Speaking of star dates, it's a really tenuous connection. It showed a close-up of the dedication plaque, which had the launch star date on it, which was different from the episode star date. It was further on. Anyway, it showed a close-up of the plaque, and it had a bunch of names on it. Did you read any of them?
I did not.
Whoa! You skipped out on pretty much the cast and crew of the show.
Oh.
Including Gene Roddenberry himself.
Oh, that's sweet.
They haven't forgotten about him.
And then that plaque is nullified because they changed the name of the ship.
They just rip it off the wall.
Now they have to throw it away.
They just phaser it. They don't even take it off the wall.
Turns out it was Odo. He shapeshifts into a new plaque.
Now that he can. He was a bit annoyed about the Federation committing genocide. I'm glad somebody was.
Somebody needed to be.
It's only massive war crimes done before a war has even started. Preemptive war crimes.
And done in secrecy.
Through an innocent person.
Who's on their side.
Hey, it worked. It was a good plan. To discuss the second thing that surprised Cisco, he's having a baby. Well,
No, he's not. Cassidy is. Yeah,
yes,
there you go.
yes. He's going to be a dad.
That's what you want to do when you defy gods, is bring another life into the equation.
Well, it was only a few podcasts ago that we were saying, oh, what difference does if you're married or not make? Here's the difference. Maybe he wouldn't have forgotten his injection if he weren't married.
Are you saying he had marriage brain and that
What?
that prevented him from taking his shot?
Well, Cassidy basically said something similar. What if the prophets were talking about our baby?
The baby's a paw wraith.
Oh no! Cisco convinced her. He said, "Don't worry, the gods won't push us around." But he looked well shaken up. Also, I'd like to point out, a minute ago I said Cisco is going to be a dad. He actually does have a child.
Yeah, it was the sequel to being a dad. Dad 2.
A double dad, I think is the technical term.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Jake has not appeared for quite a while. Where is that guy?
He's off doing journalism.
Oh, great. A character who has appeared more times than Jake got a speaking line in this episode.
Who?
Quark's loyal barman,
Oh.
who he's mentioned loads of times, but I never pointed him out. Do you even know his name?
I have no idea.
It's Broik.
Of course. How did I not keep that in mind?
He has actually appeared more times than Jake Cisco.
But Jake Cisco has way more screen time. He's had full episodes about him.
Yeah, but Broik is always in the bar. If I had to guess, I'd say Jake probably has more screen time, but it might be closer than you think.
I'm still betting on Jake.
Always bet on Cisco. In this case, Jake Cisco. Is there a quote from this episode that you'd like to share with us?
Interesting, isn't it? The Federation claims to abhor Section 31's tactics, but when they need their dirty work done, they look the other way. It's a tidy little arrangement, wouldn't you say?
There is some kind of silent acceptance of what Section 31 does. I mean, from what we've seen of Admiral Ross, he's sort of said he was unwilling to stop it or something.
They've shown, hey, we'll do whatever. If it works, it works.
I think it's odd that Odo complains about the Federation being jerks for using spying and subterfuge and things when every successful governing system uses it. Like the Cardassians have the Obsidian Order, the Romulans have the Tal Shiar, the Bajorans don't because they're not successful.
Plus, Odo is a fascist.
Yeah, the Founders, do they use spying and subterfuge? Unbelievably much. They're everywhere. Trying to commit genocide? They've tried to start many wars and have successfully started quite a few, killing millions.
Yeah, they're pretty good at it.
So saying the Federation has a slight problem with spying and subterfuge, well, yeah, they do. But they're deadly effective at it. They commit very, very specific genocide against their direct enemies. The Founders were just mental. They're starting wars all over the place, killing anyone that is a solid.
But the Founders are open about it. The difference is that the Federation claims to hate those tactics while at the same time engaging in them. So they're a bunch of hypocrites is what bothers him. If you're going to commit genocide, he wants you to be open about it.
Again, this is just complaining because they're good at something. Of course they're going to say, well, we condemn this. If they were just like, yeah, we did all the genocide, ha ha ha, then, well, first of all, the Founders would know a lot earlier, and second, they would wipe out Earth as soon as they could, or wipe out the head of the Federation Council or whatever. By denying it, they stop it from becoming personal. There's no point in having secrets out in the open. That's just crazy. The Founders are crazy in this regard. But they can be crazy because they can turn into anything, so they have an almost unstoppable sort of shield against being found. So it doesn't matter if you know their secrets because you can't find them.
Yeah, they have that luxury. Whereas for the Federation, it's a bad opening move to say, hey, I want to commit genocide.
If someone's trying to attack you and you shout, hey, I'm over here, that's a bad idea unless you're invisible. In which case, it's a slightly less bad idea, but it's probably okay. I guess my point is that if the Federation didn't do Section 31 type stuff, then perhaps the Federation wouldn't be there now.
Possibly.
They're barely making it with all the advantages they have. Take away some of the most powerful advantages, would they keep going?
Maybe they shouldn't. Maybe that's his point. He wants the Federation wiped out.
But they'll just be rolled by people who use the same advantages. It's like a stalemate. I think he's just a bit sad because his family were infected by a horrible disease by him. A little bit of the emotions flaring up.
He's lashing out because he gave his species a fatal disease.
We shouldn't be too critical. That is something that would inspire a strong emotional response.
It's not as if he knew. He didn't get infected and then think, oh, I'm infected. Oh, well, I'm going to meld, whatever they call it. I can't remember now. Link. I'm going to link with people and get them infected too. There was no premeditation.
I think he's just been betrayed because he's staunchly said that solids aren't so bad. Now it turns out they are quite bad.
Turns out everyone's
but not really.
bad.
He was friends with Garrick after Garrick tried to blow up the Founders. So he'll get over it, I'm sure. Although Garrick was unsuccessful, whereas the virus seems to be quite successful.
It's successful at making them look all ragged. No one's died from it yet, right?
Well, we've only seen Odo and the female changeling, and they're both still alive, but maybe they have been dying. I have a couple of quotes that I'd like to share.
Share them now.
Quark said, "The line has to be drawn here, this far, and no further."
Is that a Picard quote or something?
That's right. Well done.
Not again. The line must be drawn here. This far, no farther.
From Star Trek First Contact.
All right. I knew about the line must be drawn here. I've heard that. It's probably in a remix or something.
That's a the actual phrasing is drawing upon fairly common idioms, but that particular arrangement is it's from Picard. Same writer for First Contact and this episode.
Oh, that's a neat little callback.
And there's another one. This establishment will be the last outpost of what made Ferenginar great.
That one, I don't know what you're getting at.
The Next Generation episode, The Last Outpost, was the one that introduced the Ferengi and starred Armin Shimmerman as one of the Ferengi.
Aha!
So they're kind of bookending the Ferengi here? Kind of.
Bookending the awful version of Ferengi, because we're led to believe Rom will bring in an era of progressive attitudes.
Well, I kind of meant they're literally bookending the appearance of Ferengi, because once Deep Space Nine ends, Voyager was still running, but in Voyager they're away from the Alpha Quadrant, so they're unlikely to see any Ferengi out there. And Enterprise was still a couple years off, so in some sense, the Ferengi, they didn't know if they were going to appear after the end of Deep Space Nine. So they dropped in a little reference to the start of the Ferengi there. So those are my two special clever quotes.
Good job.
Thanks. It wasn't me that made them. I think there's something we need to do for the last time for this show.
And what's that?
Move on to the next episode.
Oh man. It's the last one.
Yep. I hope you're 100% ready for the ending.
How do I know whether I am?
Just be like Cisco. Be 100% ready all the time.
Never dip below 100%. Okay, I'm at 100%.
Stay that way. And let's go on to the next episode.
Yay!